Ireland's only computer and communications museum. At present, we're getting it ready to be open for the Galway Science and Technology Festival, which is taking place in November. So at the moment, it's a work in progress, but I'll give you a short tour of its main exhibits. So if you follow me in, we have here on my right the Apple exhibition area, and we're putting in chronological order the Apple computers from the first popular computer that they had, which was the Apple II in 1978, right through the 1980s, 1990s, 2000s, and up to the mobile devices of the iPod, the iPhone, and the iTablet. And over here we have the Digital Equipment Corporation exhibit, which was the second largest computer company in the whole world back in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, and it was the mainstay of Galway. In fact, during the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, it was the first multinational corporation to come to Galway, a high-level multinational corporation anyway, and it really changed the face of Galway. It turned it from a rural town into a major cosmopolitan city. And so here we have a display of most of the hardware associated with that company itself, which, as I say, was the second largest in the world. Over on my right here, all along this wall, and over to the section here, we have a display of retro gaming, right from the early Ataris in the late 70s through the 80s with the Segas and the Nintendos, the PlayStations, and the Xboxes, plus a number of arcade games started to develop from the 1970s when we had the development of the Intel chip. Over here we're having a display of radio, right from the early days of radio with Marconi. We're having a robotics section. We have a section just here in front of me dedicated to Star Trek, and the actual inspiration that Star Trek gave has science fiction to so many young people that turn science fiction into science reality. On my far right, we have a display associated with the schools, with technologies in schools right through from the early 20th century. And here on my far right, we have what was a public telephone box. We made it ourselves, but it's shaped and built like the authentic unit that used to populate the streets of our cities and our towns and villages. And it was the communication device that links so many of us to people across Ireland and across the world. And we're putting that in association with a display on the far wall, what we call the phony wall, which is dedicated to the devices that were made here in Galway and elsewhere by Norton Telecom during 70s, 80s, and 90s. Norton Telecom then became Nortel and then became Avaya, which is still with us today. In fact, DEC is still with us today. Even though they were set up here in Galway in 1971, and then they were bought out by Compaq, and then they were bought out by HP, that are still with us in Galway City. So that's a very brief overview. I'm very much excited by it because it's hard to believe these days we have computer technology in a museum, and what we try to do with young people is introduce them to the development of technology, show them the past, inspire them, work with them for the present to inspire them for the future. Yes, so thank you.
So, and you have to bear with me because I was taking you on this tour from the other side, and you've seen me all the time on the back. So this is our very first experimental video. Obviously, it's low quality. The camera we use is quite dated, but stay tuned for more. We are acquiring better equipment, and we will prepare a proper professional full-length tour of the Computers and Communications Museum that we are hosting here at Insight. So stay tuned for more. And thank you very much, Brendan, for this brief overview.
Pleasure.
Thank you.